The condo market here in Calgary, Alberta is about to crash, and all of the pricing that we've seen increase over the last 2 years is going to disappear. That's what a lot of people want you to think when they see the amount of inventory and the drop in sales that's currently happening in the Calgary real estate market. A lot of people are expecting that this market is going to crash. I've heard the same things said in 2022, yet look at where we are now. Let's actually take a peek at the market here and look at what the Calgary Real Estate Board is showcasing us about what is happening in this market. So you can see the price has increased steadily ever since September 2023. Over the last, let's call it 3 months, we've seen a flat line of price increases where we've seen kind of that top end, right? Around that $345,000 price point. You can see that the inventory is steadily increasing and the sales are decreasing, right? Last year, it was an anomaly year. Last year was a super hot year for Calgary real estate. You can see that the inventory decreased, the sales decreased, yet the price still increased. So let's take a trip down memory lane here, okay? Let's look at, we have almost 500 sales and over 1,600 homes left over at the end of the month. Let's see if this is average for what this market has seen in the most depressing years and look at if it's any different or if it's the same, right? So when you look at this 2014, pretty hot year, there was only 1,100 homes and over 400 sales, but the price point was only 300,000. You can see that in 2015, we started to see those reductions. We had 1,300 homes left over at the end of the month, but only 300 sales. You can see the reduction here in 2016. We had over 1,600 homes left over at the end of the month and only 200 sales. Only 200 sales again, but you have almost 1,800 homes left over at the end of the month, but look at the decrease throughout the entire year. 2018, look at the decrease again. You had over 1,500 homes, but again, only about 200 sales. You can see the decrease again in 2019, right? We had a pretty wild roller coaster here in Calgary where it continued to fall. 2019, you can see we had almost 1,600 homes left over at the end of the month, but again, only about 200 sales. 2020, we started to see a turnaround, right? It had a decrease in price point right until about March, April, May. I think you guys can remember what happened in March, 2020. Calgary real estate started to see an increase, right? We had 16 homes left over at the end of the month and we had 200 sales. Okay. Now 2021, we kind of had a little bit of a weird year. It obviously increased from September to September, but we had a little bit of a lull there. We had only 300 sales, 1,500 homes, 1,600 homes left over at the end of the month. 2022, 1,200 homes. We started to lose inventory, right? And then we had over 400 sales. You could see that we had a flat line. 2023, pretty spectacular year for Calgary condos. We saw an increase throughout the entire year. You see that we only had 1,000 homes left over at the end of the month and 700 sales. It was a very hot market. And then this year, we're starting to see, going back to trends that are increase in sales and decrease in listings, right? Are we going to crash and burn? This is the question that we need to ask ourselves going into 2025. My name's Adam Fyfe. I am your Calgary Realtor going through the data, giving you all sorts of information and trying to give you the best possible information to make the most educated decision. If you are looking to get a hold of me and you want to book a Zoom call, go ahead. The link is in the description. You can go and click a 30-minute, 60-minute consultation. If you're actually looking to get an understanding of what your home evaluation is, this is a really cool tool. If you're watching on a computer, scan this QR code here or go to the website that's actually linked in the description. It's an AI automated instant home evaluation tool. I have many of people use this on a quarterly basis, following along with what their home is doing every single month. It's super, super cool. It's instant. It's very neat. It's me and only my team that looks at it. Thank you very much for everyone who has actually utilized this service so far. So, moving forward, let's actually look to see what the Calgary Real Estate Board has written about the apartment sector here in Calgary, and then let's talk about some future trends. Strong gains in new listings continued in September with 993 units entering the market. At the same time, sales dropped to 502 units, causing the sales to new listing ratio to drop to 50% and inventories to rise to 1,600 units. Of the inventory in the market, over 72% was priced above $300,000, a significant shift compared to last year, where less than 58% of listings were above that range. Gains in supplies compared to sales caused the months of supply to rise to 3.2 months, the highest level seen since the end of 2021. So 3.2 months of supply means that this is actually in balanced market conditions. We shouldn't see a lot of price movement up. We shouldn't see a lot of price movement down. Improving supply in the new home market is likely contributing to the rise in supply and has taken some of the pressure off home prices. In September, the unadjusted benchmark price was $345,000. Okay, we're going to touch on that in a moment. So, if you're looking to sell in your condo, I would recommend that you hold off right off the hop, because we're starting to see more new listings and sales slowing down. Sales slowing down at the end of the year is very common throughout the entire season of things. September, October, November, December is a steady decrease in sales almost every single year, right? If we actually go back here and we just look at, if I can just zoom out here properly, if we can actually zoom back here, right, you can see 2022, again, anomaly year. 2021, kind of a decrease there. 2020, you can see a decrease there. 2019, decrease there. 2018, you had a little increase in November, but it dropped right off January, February. So 2017, a little bit of an increase till January, February drop. October had a little bit of an increase this year, but dropped off and then dropped off. And then we go over here and it dropped off again. So sales dropping off going into the new year is very common in this market. So let's be prepared for that. Now, let's look at these numbers here, because this is interesting stuff. You can see that this is the same information as the graph before, but it's in written numerical value. You can see that the sales were 502, new listings was 993, and the inventory, the leftover homes at the end of the month, is steadily increased. It's around 1,600 units, and the days on market is actually increased to 33 days. Okay, the benchmark price did fall by $1,000 or $500. Sorry. 1,500. I can't do math apparently in my head. It dropped $1,500. Really not that much, more of a stabilization. The median price actually increased to 337, meaning the middle price, so the least expensive, the most expensive, that middle price is 330. It was an increase from last month, but the average price actually decreased pretty significantly, right? It had a 357, then it dropped down to 341, then it went to 353, and you get 347. So you can see the average price fluctuates a lot. I don't really like looking at averages a whole lot, but you can see a trend kind of going back and forth. 358, 349, 357, 341, 358, 353, and 347. So it's kind of staying relative around that $350,000 price point. Now, when looking at the year-to-date sales, we are still in astronomical numbers compared to what we've seen in years past, right? We are at a record high for the amount of sales this year. So yes, prices might be cooling down, which is a good thing for this market, but we're still at historic highs, especially when you're looking at 2014 numbers, right? We are at over 6,000 units sold in 2024. Now, when you look at the new listings, you can see just how many new listings are coming to the market. And this is where condos get a little tricky, because there's a lot of new development that comes to the market, and there's a lot of developers that kind of dump product, right? Now, there is some stipulations where they need to sell around 60% of the units before they actually go on the market and actually build that project. But when the project is done, I've experienced it firsthand, a lot of investors flip those condos and put them on the market instantaneously. I have many examples of this happening firsthand. So we can see that the new listings have increased at a dramatic rate. We need to slow down on new listings if we want to see an increase in price point. So at this point right now, if you're looking at selling, like mentioned, maybe cool off until the springtime so those sales can come back. Now, when we look at the months of supply, we can see that 4 months here is this line here. So when you're looking at the apartments, right, you can see that north, east, and northeast have the most amount of supply. So these are the quadrants that are probably going to see more price reductions compared to other communities, right? North, you're looking at Livingston, Carringston, Evanston. Northeast, you're looking at your Skyview Ranch, Redstone, Red Corner. What else you got up there in the northeast? Savannah. You've got a lot of different things. East Calgary, you've got like your Belvederes and your newer constructions in the outside of the ring road, right? Now, when you're looking at city center, surprisingly is not as much as others, because you would think that the downtown core has a lot of listings coming to the market, but they do get absorbed relatively quick. A lot of these new construction units are sitting on the market a little bit longer because a lot of them get dumped on at the same time. And you're seeing a lot of dumps in northeast, which is very clear in this chart. You can see that southeast, south, and northwest are still relatively in a seller's market. You're still under 2.5 months of supply. It's inching up into balanced market territory, but it still is favoring the seller more than it is the buyer. So let's continue on here. Now, what I want to do is just kind of take you to the market, right? So this is a very interesting view of what's going on in the real estate market. All I have done is I have gone back 30 days of sales, and today is it's 2 o'clock on October 10th. So I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so I can see it a little easier. If we go to results and we just categorize it by the sales of today, right? These are legitimately units that have sold today, right? You can see that all of them have sold under list price, right? You got a 598 sold for 550, 420 to 415, 390, 339 down to 336, 249 down to 247. If you actually go down the lot here, there is a anomaly in Signal Hill, which again, if we actually look at that chart, right, where we look at somewhere in the west, it had a little bit more favoritism for the seller, and that shows here in Signal Hill. We have Panorama Hill, which is technically north, which actually saw 1%. Signal Hill again, you saw 1. Somerset, you saw 1. And then you've got a couple down here that are dropping down into the mid 900s, right? So you do need to be careful if you're a listing to go on the market and make sure that you're going up against other products that is going to be competitive. As a buyer, you have a lot more of a leverage point now than what you did a little while ago. So if we actually switch it over to actives and we go to results and we go to buyer and we switch this over here, you can see that if we just go to, where am I going here? If I go to days on market and we just look at some of the newest listings, right, you can see that there's still a lot of listings coming on the market, but there's already price reductions, right? You've already got a 399 down to 379, a 3 million, you got 356 to 352, 399 to 389, 394 to 384, right? You're starting to see price reductions relatively fast for people looking to sell their product as quick as possible. So as a buyer, you have a lot more leverage than what you did a couple months ago. And this conversation actually could be, how should I wait for interest rates to fall before I actually get into the market? Or should I get into the market now, get a variable rate, ride that rate down, and capitalize on this lower than usual activity just to get into the market? This is all up to your personal situation and is definitely worth a Zoom call to have that conversation, because it really depends on what is happening in your own personal life. So let's continue on here. Like mentioned before, if you want to know what your home is valued at, condos are really slick. It's very accurate when it comes to the instant home evaluation. It's me and my team that looks at this. Yes, we're probably going to call. Yes, we're probably going to record you a Loom video and introduce ourselves and try to get you the best possible information. But it is what it is. If you're not looking to sell, totally fine. We help a lot of people just try to understand what their home is valued at, especially those investors out there who are looking to just get a general understanding of how much equity they have saved in that home. So let's look at this here. So this is the microeconomic breakdown, or the area breakdown of individual quadrants in Calgary. So you can see that a lot of the quadrants are starting to see below 50% sales to new listings ratio. So I just showed you what's active on October 10th, but this is all active in September, right? September 1 to September 30th. You can see that City Center, Northeast, North had a 36% sales to new listing ratio, only 32 sales and 87 new listings. Again, if you're looking at North, really great time to be a buyer to try to find those hot deals and try to get some product at a pretty decent price. But you do need to be careful if you're going on the market as a listing agent. Oh. You can see that Northwest had 75% sales to new listing ratio and Southeast had an 80%, so those are still very strong. But you're looking at West and you're looking at East, right? All of these very low sales to new listing ratios, which is causing the market to slow down as a whole. There's a lot of listings coming onto the market, but not a lot of buyers absorbing that inventory. So you can see that these are the price points here. This is the year-over-year growth, still in double digits, right? Compared to last year, you can see that the lowest one is City Center at only 10.16. But if you look at the price point, it is one of the most expensive quadrants in the entire city. And we're starting to see some negatives, right? We're starting to see quite a bit of negatives come about in this market, as we saw in that previous screen sharing, where a lot of the homes are actually selling under 100%, 99, 98, 95% of list price. This is evident now in this graph and in that screen sharing that I showed you. So the City of Calgary apartment price change, right? We are noticing a slowdown in price points. So if we actually zoom in here, we can see that there is a clear decrease in the year-over-year percentage increase. So the lowest that we got was in 2021. We only had a 2% year over year increase, right? So even though this chart is going down, we're still at around 12% year over year increase. Are we going to dip down and start falling consistently to where we actually see price decreases year over year? Or are we going to slow down and then probably pick back up in 2025? And we'll touch on that in just a couple slides. When we actually look at the price point here, we can see 2022, we experienced something fairly similar, right? Interest rates increased rapidly. The apartment market really slowed down. A lot of people thought that we were going to see a price decrease in this market, right? But if you look at 2023, look at the increase that we saw, and it never slowed down since that since that speculation. 2024, we're kind of in this interesting realm where a lot of people are seeing the Canadian real estate market see decreases. We're seeing the economy not being as strong as what it needs to be, and we're seeing a lot of the average Canadian prices fall. Well, let's look at Toronto, let's look at Vancouver. Those are going to obviously drag the average down. Calgary is going through some seasonal adjustment right now. We are fairly on par in average from what we've seen over the last 10 years, which is not completely out to normal. The inventory is at 1,400, but our sales are still relatively strong, around 500 sales, okay? So we're not seeing a major slowdown in this market. So what I want to touch on these last couple minutes of this video is where the actual economy is in Calgary. And there's quite a bit of things that are going on in our economy, right? We have population growth, okay? We have a lot of people moving here. Yes, a lot of people might leave, right? There might be quite a bit of people that came here for affordable reasons, and they might leave because it's not as affordable as what it was. But there's still there's still a population growth that there's more people moving here than there is product on the market. There's a lot of new construction coming on in Calgary. There's a lot of new projects in West, in North, in Southeast, as well as East Calgary, which we've seen some of those slower markets. But there's just not enough to absorb all of the people that are moving here and are still planning on moving here in 2025. When you start to look at the annual GDP for Alberta, it is speculated through various sources that the Alberta economy in 2025 is going to grow, right? We have oil and gas that is continuing to produce. We've diversified our portfolio, and we're not just relying on that so much. We have other sectors that we are relying on, and we are expected to grow, right? You can see low case scenario, high case scenario. Alberta is planning on actually making big moves. And when you start to look at some of the things that have actually happened here, the Calgary Economic Development at the Economic Outlook Conference, tongue twister there, they actually talked about how the Calgary market is also expected to grow than other provinces in the entire country. And for these reasons, of growth and forecasting projections, I really don't foresee Calgary going through any sort of recession. Yes, we're probably going to see a slowdown going into the winter. Yes, we're probably going to see some pricing correct over the winter time, which is very common in most markets in Canada. It's very cold. Not a lot of people want to move. If they are in the market, they have a little bit more leverage because people who are selling in the winter are a little bit more desperate. So they're probably willing to take a little bit of a price decrease just to sell the property. It's common, right? It happens, not a big deal. But if you look at the position that Alberta is in and the decisions that we've made as a province, there is some really good projections that are in front of us. So I would imagine this is quite common. This is normal. 2022, 2023 were very different years. It was very rapid, fast, lots of price increases. Now we're probably going back to a little bit of a normalization into winter 2024, 25. And in 2025, I would imagine we're probably going to see a continued increase in price point, because when you look at our apartments, we're still very affordable when you consider places like Ontario and you consider places like Vancouver. Don't look at the States because we're not comparable compared to the States. But when you look at Canada, we're still positioned quite well. So if you have any questions, reach out. Thank you very much for watching this. I hope you like what you saw. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.